What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal link there also. They asked me to put it up, so I put it up. Thanks everybody for supporting. This video is entitled, Are You Accustomed to Your Parents' Lifestyle? Whether you from lower class, middle class, or upper class, you're going to be raised by your parents. And for the most part, people are accustomed to how you grew up and your parents' lifestyle. So you start thinking about, some people want more than their parents have, and some people want their parents' lifestyle. But you get accustomed to it. If you're living in poverty, you watch television and it makes you see it's a bigger world than you financially. And you don't want the lifestyle you're necessarily living, but sometimes, like when I grew up, a lot of times we didn't know we was poor because we were kids. We were enjoying life. All we know is we was having a good time. Our parents knew that we was poor. When we grew up and got older, the things that we considered normal was normal. You get what I'm saying? We knew we went hungry at times. When I used to crumple up newspaper and use it as toilet paper, using baking soda as toothpaste and deodorant, stuff like that. Like, they used to say, sometimes people pluck roaches out the cereal box. Been there, but you don't look at yourself as being poor until you start going to other places and hanging around other people, and you see that everybody doesn't live like you. But you got accustomed to your parents' lifestyle, right? And sometimes you look down on your parents, and I think that's a bad idea. I mean, if your parents are just people who came from poverty and they couldn't get out of poverty, because depending on the family situation or where people came from, or sometimes even with my grandparents, because I live with my grandparents a lot, they came a long way from where they came. And I would say my parents, aunts, and uncles kind of regressed. Like my granddad, I think stopped in the 5th grade. He's either 5th grade or he's like 5 to 8 years old when he stopped going to school to help take care of his family. So you go from that man to a Korean War vet, to a father, to a man who works at a bakery, at a sugar cane factory, who does all these things, and he provides for his family, and the family got a house. And there was a time where I actually lived in that house with my grandmother. And the odd thing about it is, I saw my parent and my aunts and uncles regress from that. They started in a good space at that time, and they regressed. They went backwards, right? Because to a degree, people were accustomed to the lifestyle that my granddad provided. My grandmother, she came from a family that owned land, cattle, oil, and stuff like that, and they were well off. So she didn't really want for much, but it was still the South. It was still that time Jim Crow type of thing. So there were still tough things to go through. But I never remember my grandma. I don't even think my grandmother ever worked, now that I think about it. My other granddad, he was a merchant marine. He came from an actual business family. They had multiple businesses in Mississippi and Louisiana. And those people regressed. And my grandmother came from a family where my great-grandfather died of cancer when she was, I want to say, 8. So you're talking about that today, where I was talking to my aunt. She was like, back in the 50s, there was no food stamps, health care, stuff like that. When the man died, you just got to figure it out. You out on your own. But she went from that to having her own place, this, that, and the third. And I would say my other parents and aunts and stuff, they regressed to a degree. From that lifestyle. So we went from people who went from basically sharecropping and good families to middle class, or people who was in the middle class and upper class, to winding up people living back in the projects, right? So, but we got accustomed to the lifestyle. Same thing when I got older, I saw people who was in middle class, and they were comfortable because their parents made it to the middle class, and so now they think, this is how it's supposed to be. So they really don't struggle like people in poverty, and they want to be like people in the upper class, because sometimes when you're in the middle class, you can actually get glimpses of the upper class because you have friends in it, depending on where you live at. But you're accustomed to your family's lifestyle, and you're accustomed to them doing stuff for you, and you want things on par with these people who may have more money. And in my opinion, I saw a lot of middle class kids who were soft. Everybody owed them something, but they want to be better than the people in the hood, and then at the same time they want to slum in the hood and dabble, act like they could fit in and they can make it there. But the minute times get rough, they dip out. Same thing with the upper class. They did the same type of thing, but they made sure to stay as far away from the hood as possible. They was like, an old school mob boss, drug dealer type person. Like, I don't want to touch no money, no dope, no nothing. If they see me, they didn't know it was me, type of thing. And then when I got older, I was able to see people in the upper class, and their kids are, they see the money coming in, they see the lifestyle, and because they were born into it, that's what they think it is. And I think they were the worst, because it was rare that I saw an upper class kid who had more ambition and work ethic than their parents. It was rare. It was an anomaly, because everything was already, the table was already set, and few of them took it to the next level. They just wanted to live in this lazy opulence, right? And to a degree, this is why you see people either stuck where they are. Because even my friends that was in poverty, from when I was a younger kid and in the poor situations, they were accustomed to their family's lifestyle, drugs, alcoholism, abuse, just poverty kind of culture. So sometimes you get desensitized to it, and you think it's normal, to the point you can't graduate from it, right? And then it becomes your life, and then it's all good until you start looking at your other friends who came from your same neighborhood, and they start doing better than you, and you're trying to figure out how y'all came from the same space, because they didn't take on the same characteristics and do the same things you did. And they looked at that, what you thought was normal was dysfunctional. Same thing with the middle class. I've learned over the years that, middle class people, to a degree, they keep their kids in that middle class thing, but when it's time for them to be out on their own and spread their wings, they kind of fall and falter, because they're accustomed to having some type of bailout package, some type of network that always keep them on their feet. So I saw a lot of people who grew up in middle class families who had trouble creating their own middle class life, because they always had a safety net. And the rich ones, I saw that in worse, worse, because they did have a safety net. They just wouldn't let them just, fall on their face. Now, over time, the people who came from poor places, but I take this back. The people who wanted to be things and had dreams and aspirations, goals and ambitions, they used their position as fuel to get better. The people I knew who were in poor neighborhoods, they wanted to get out. That was their fuel. The people who was in middle class neighborhoods, they looked at the situation in their networks, and they used that to go to higher levels. The people that was in the upper class who I would say were anomalies, they looked at those connections in their money, and they figured out whatever was their interest or passion, they figured out how to monetize it and make it a business. And they had the structure to help that part out. People don't look at, President Trump and even Jeff Bezos from Amazon. They got their seed money and their structure from their rich fathers. It happens. I think about the story of John Lynch. He used to play in the NFL. He came from the Merrill Lynch family, basically. And that's what he wanted to do. So it was his passion. So he dove all in it because he had a support system, but he wanted to earn his keep. So it does happen. You know what I'm saying? But people do get so accustomed to their parents' lifestyle that they get stuck in arrested development. That seems like the norm to me. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's what I've witnessed for the bulk of my life. So I'm done with this one. Like, share, subscribe. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.